What if 4 ordinary-looking Lincoln cents could turn a routine handful of pocket change into a serious numismatic discovery? The dates 1990, 1993, 1995, and May 2005 look familiar, but each one has something worth knowing before you spend it. Welcome to Numismatic USA, where we uncover the history, varieties, and collector clues hiding in America's smallest coins. If you enjoy discovering what makes everyday coins interesting, you're subscribed. Because you never know what might be waiting in the next roll. Take a close look at a 1990 Lincoln cent. At first glance, there's nothing unusual about it. It's the familiar Lincoln memorial cent that millions of Americans handled during the final decade of the 20th century. But that ordinary appearance is exactly what makes modern Lincoln cents so interesting. A coin doesn't have to be ancient to have a story, and it certainly doesn't have to be rare in every example to deserve a closer look. The 1990 Lincoln cent was struck at both Philadelphia and Denver, with Philadelphia coins carrying no mint mark and Denver coins carrying a small d beneath the date. The Philadelphia issue had a mintage of 6,851,765,000 pieces, while the Denver issue reached 4,922,894,533. These enormous production totals tell us something important. Right away, a normal circulated 1990 cent is not automatically a rare coin, but rarity in modern coin collecting is rarely just about the date. The 1990 cent belongs to the copper-plated zinc era of the Lincoln Memorial cent. It weighs 2.5 grams, measures 19 millimeters across, and has a plain edge. The coin's copper-plated zinc composition is one of the defining characteristics of Lincoln cents produced during this period. On the obverse, you'll see Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, along with liberty, the date, and the national motto, "In God We Trust." Flip it over, and you'll find the Lincoln Memorial, a design that had been introduced in 1959 to commemorate the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. That reverse design would remain on the cent for decades, and there's something collectors learn very quickly when they begin studying these coins. Condition matters. A heavily circulated 1990 cent can be common, while an exceptionally preserved example with strong original color and minimal marks can be much more interesting to collectors. The difference between a worn coin and a high-grade coin can be dramatic. PCG's records, for example, include a 1990 Philadelphia cent graded Ms. 69 ard that realized $7,200 in a 2018 Heritage auction sale. That is not what an ordinary circulated 1990 penny is worth. It is an example of what exceptional grade and preservation can do to a modern coin's market appeal. That distinction is critical when you hear about a modern penny selling for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Don't assume every coin with that date carries the same value. Auction records generally represent unusually high grade or otherwise special examples. Your circulated coin may be worth only its face value, while another example from the same year could attract serious collector attention. So, if you have a 1990 cent, what should you do? Don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't scrape the surface trying to make the copper color brighter. Collectors want original surfaces, and cleaning can permanently damage the appearance and reduce the desirability of a collectible coin. Instead, look at the date, check the mint mark, examine the surfaces under good lighting, and pay attention to the overall condition. Now let's move forward 3 years. The 1993 Lincoln cent is another coin that can easily disappear into a jar of change without anyone giving it a second thought. Philadelphia produced 5,684,705,000 Lincoln cents in 1993, while Denver produced 6,426,650,571. Like the 1990 cent, the standard 1993 issue weighs 2.5 grams, measures 19 millimeters, has a plain edge, and uses copper-plated zinc. That tells us something important. A 1993 cent is not rare simply because it is from the early 1990s. In fact, billions were made, But that doesn't make the year useless to collectors. The real excitement begins when you stop asking, "What year is this?" and start asking, "What exactly is this particular coin? Is it Philadelphia or Denver? What is the condition? Is the original red color still present? Does the coin show unusual die characteristics? Is there a documented variety? Is it a proof or special issue rather than an ordinary circulation strike?" Those are much better questions. The 1993 cent is also a perfect example of why condition can transform the collecting story. PCG's records a Philadelphia 1993 cent graded Ms. 69 ARD, with a reported auction sale of $3,375. In 2022, again, that does not mean a normal 1993 penny in your pocket is worth thousands. It shows how dramatically the market can separate exceptional certified examples from ordinary circulated coins. The same pattern appears with the Denver issue. A 1993 D cent graded Ms. 69 has a recorded auction result of $4,600 from 2010. That is an extraordinary grade for a coin that was produced in enormous quantities. And this is where modern Lincoln cents become fascinating. When billions of coins are produced, the survival of billions of pieces does not guarantee that billions survive in truly exceptional condition. Coins spend decades moving through cash registers, pockets, vending machines, bank bags, coin counting machines, and household containers. They rub against other coins. They pick up scratches. Their original surfaces become dull. Red copper color can gradually change with exposure, and handling. So a collector looking for high-grade Lincoln cents is often hunting for preservation rather than simple age. Have you ever looked through an old jar of pennies and noticed that one coin seemed dramatically sharper and brighter than all the others? That could be the beginning of the hunt. But now we reach the coin in this group that deserves the closest attention, the 1995 Lincoln cent, because unlike the ordinary examples from 1990 and 1993, 1995 has a famous variety that every serious Lincoln cent collector should know. The 1995 Doubled Die Obverse. This is not simply a coin with a little blurry lettering. It is a recognized double die variety, and the doubling is especially noticeable in the inscriptions "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." One reason this variety became so famous is that the doubling can be strong enough to be recognized without extreme magnification. Although magnification remains extremely useful when trying to attribute a coin accurately. And here's where the story gets even more interesting. The Philadelphia Mint struck more than 6.4 billion regular 1995 Lincoln cents. PCG's lists the mintage at 6,411,440,000. Yet a relatively small portion of those coins were struck from the doubled die variety. PCG's estimates that perhaps 300,000 to 500,000 examples of the famous Philadelphia variety were produced. Think about that, hundreds of thousands. Sounds like a huge number when you're talking about a rare coin, but compared with more than 6 billion ordinary cents, it represents a tiny fraction of the total production. And unlike many varieties that require advanced equipment and a trained eye to identify, the 1995 Doubled Die Obverse can be surprisingly obvious. Look closely at the lettering. The strongest clues are in God We Trust and Liberty. The important thing is to understand what you're actually looking for. Not every coin with apparent doubling is a doubled die. Machine doubling is common. Die deterioration can also create strange-looking lettering. Damage after the coin leaves the mint can create even more confusing shapes. That's why a collector should never declare a coin valuable simply because a letter looks doubled. The genuine 1995 Doubled Die Obverse is a specific, documented variety. PCG's identifies it as FS101. And certified examples are recognized across multiple color designations, including brown, red, and brown, and red. There's another reason. The 1995 variety has such an important place in Lincoln's cent history. Came near the end of an era in the way major doubled dies could occur. PCGs explains that in the late 1990s, the Philadelphia and Denver mints moved toward a single hub process. That change reduced the opportunity for the kind of major doubled die varieties associated with the older hubbing process. The 1995 doubled die therefore stands as one of the last major circulating doubled die varieties of its kind. That's what makes this tiny coin more than a potential collectible. It represents a moment in the technological history of American coin production, and there's a fascinating twist. The 1995 Lincoln cent also has a documented double die variety. The Denver variety is much scarcer than the famous Philadelphia example. PCGs has documented strong doubling on the Denver coin involving areas including "In God We Trust," the date, and the D mint mark. PCGs has also discussed reports that some 1995 doubled die pieces may have been intentionally struck for educational purposes at the Denver Mint. Although the exact history of the surviving pieces cannot be fully verified, that's an important distinction. A fascinating possibility is not the same thing as a proven historical fact, and that is exactly how serious numismatics should work. We separate what is documented from what remains uncertain. The 1995 regular cent itself had a mintage of 7,128,560,000. So once again, the date alone doesn't make a coin rare. The special doubled die variety is what changes the story. So if you're checking a 1995 penny at home, don't just glance at the date, look at the lettering. Let Liberty. Let In God We Trust. And if you see strong, consistent doubling that appears to match the recognized variety, don't start cleaning the coin or trying to improve it. Protect it. A potentially important coin should be left in its original condition and, if the variety appears convincing, considered for professional attribution or certification. That's because authentication matters. A certified coin gives buyers and collectors greater confidence that the coin has been properly identified and graded. But certification doesn't magically make every coin valuable. The market still depends on grade, color designation, eye appeal, rarity, demand, and the specific variety. And that brings us to an important lesson. A 1995 penny can be worth 1 cent. Another 1995 penny can be worth considerably more. The difference isn't the date. It's what's actually sitting inside that date. Now, let's move ahead to 2005. By this point, the Lincoln cent had been using the copper-plated zinc composition for more than 2 decades. The 2005 Philadelphia cent had a mintage of 3,935,600,000, but while the Denver circulation issue reached 3,764,450,500, both were copper-plated zinc, weighed 2.5 grams, measured 19 millimeters, and carried the familiar plain edge. But 2005 has something particularly interesting for collectors. The United States Mint produced special satin-finish cents for the 2005 Uncirculated Mint Sets. These weren't ordinary circulation strikes. The Denver satin-finish 2005 cent has a listed mintage of 1,160,000, dramatically smaller than the billions produced for circulation. PCGs records this as a special strike with the same 2.5 gram weight and 19 millimeter diameter as the regular issue. That creates a completely different collecting story. Imagine two 2005 Lincoln cents sitting side by side. They share the same date. They both carry Lincoln's portrait. They may even look similar to an inexperienced eye. But one could be an ordinary circulation strike produced in the billions, while another could be a special satin-finish issue, produced in a much smaller quantity for collectors. That's why experienced collectors never stop at the date. They study the finish. They study the surfaces. They study the strike. They examine the overall appearance and provenance. The 2005 satin-finish coins are especially interesting because their market performance can be very different from ordinary circulated cents. PCGs records a 2005 satin-finish set with a reported auction record of $7,906 for a very high-grade example. That is an exceptional certified result, not a normal value for a 2005 penny found in circulation. And once again, grade changes everything. A coin can be common in one condition and highly desirable in another. This is why collectors use grading terms such as good, very good, fine, very fine, extremely fine, about uncirculated, and mint state. For modern Lincoln sets, the difference between a worn circulated piece and an exceptionally preserved mint state coin can be enormous. For red copper-plated zinc sets, collectors may also encounter the designations brown, red, and brown, and red. Those color designations help describe the coin's surface appearance and can have a major effect on collector demand for high-grade examples. So what should you actually look for when examining these 4 dates? Start with the basics. Check whether it is Philadelphia or Denver. Look at the condition. If you have an exceptionally preserved example, don't dismiss it simply because billions were produced. Exceptional grades can be surprisingly difficult to achieve. Then check 1993. Again, identify the mint mark and study the condition. The date itself isn't rare, but certified high-grade examples have demonstrated that strong collector demand can exist for superb specimens. Then comes 1995. Slow down here. This is the date where your examination should become much more careful. Check the lettering for the recognized doubled die obverse. Don't confuse machine doubling with the true doubled die. If you believe you have the genuine variety, consider having it authenticated by a reputable grading service rather than relying solely on an internet comparison. And finally, 2005. Look beyond the date. Ask yourself whether the coin is an ordinary circulation strike or whether there are characteristics suggesting a special collector issue, such as the satin finish. Could one of these coins already be sitting in your collection? That's the beauty of modern coin collecting. You don't necessarily need to travel to an ancient archaeological site or spend thousands of dollars at a major auction to begin. Sometimes the hunt starts with a handful of pennies, and sometimes the most valuable thing you find isn't the price of the coin at all. It's the knowledge that lets you recognize something other people overlook. The Lincoln cent has been part of American life for generations. It has passed through grocery stores, gas stations, school cafeterias, vending machines, bank counters, and family coin jars. Most of these coins were never intended to become famous, yet some became varieties, some survived in extraordinary condition, some were produced as special collector issues, and some became important simply because collectors noticed the difference. That's the lesson behind these 4 dates. A 1990 cent teaches us that enormous mintage doesn't eliminate the importance of condition. A 1993 cent shows us how exceptional grades can transform an otherwise common modern coin into a sought-after certified piece. A 1995 cent reminds us that a documented doubled die can hide among billions of ordinary coins, and 2005 demonstrates how a special finish and collector issue can create an entirely different category of rarity. But there's one final rule I want every collector to remember. Never clean your coins. If you find something that looks promising, handle it by the edges whenever possible. Keep it in a suitable protective holder, away from moisture and harsh environmental conditions. Don't polish it, don't scrub it, and don't try to make an old coin look new. A coin's original surface is part of its history. Once that surface is damaged, you can't simply put it back. And if a coin appears to have a significant variety or unusually high grade, professional authentication may be worthwhile. Reputable third-party grading services can verify the attribution and assign a standardized grade, giving future buyers greater confidence. Still, certification is not a guarantee of a huge price. The market changes, collector demand changes, auction results change, and the value of an individual coin depends on its precise variety, condition, color, certification, rarity, and overall appeal. So don't let an exciting headline convince you that every old penny is a fortune. Instead, learn what makes the exceptional examples different. That is how real coin collecting works. And that is how you turn pocket change into knowledge. So the next time you see a 1990, a 1993, a 1995, or a 2005 Lincoln cent, don't automatically throw it into the spending pile. Turn it over, look at the date, check the mint mark, study the lettering, examine the surfaces, and if something doesn't look quite right, take a second look before you spend it, because the difference between an ordinary penny and a coin worth serious collector attention can sometimes be remarkably small. Maybe it's a rare variety. Maybe it's an unusually high-grade survivor. Maybe it's a special finish. Or maybe it's simply a coin that teaches you something new. And that's what makes the hunt worth doing. One of these for Lincoln cents surprised you. Tell us which one caught your attention. And if you have a 1995 cent with strong doubling, especially around Liberty or In God We Trust, that's one coin you'll want to examine very carefully. Keep searching, keep learning, and keep those coins safe, because you never know what the next penny might reveal.